Hello, everybody. Good morning. Oh man, changing to mornings has been hard in a way, but kind of good in another way. So we're just gonna get used to it. Anyway, how is everybody today? I'm looking forward to teaching you something that I think is kind of like magic and a lot of fun to do, and it's called core spinning, and it makes an amazing yarn that verges on that art yarn category. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I have a little bit of fiber down here. I have a whole bed full of fiber back there, and it's going to be something that is going to be pretty quick to show, and then a lot of it just doing it over and over with different fibers and that sort of thing, making this yarn. Let me tell you a little quick reason why I got on this core spinning kick today, and that's what happens. I really never know from one Thursday to another what I'm going to teach. It is whatever I'm working on during the week. I try to tie in the teaching stream. So this week I had picked up a fiber that is pin drafted, and it was superwash. No, it was a regular merino and sea cell, and it had white and pinks and browns in it in a pin drafted form, which means it ran straight down the fiber, all across the fiber. Very different when you have a pin drafted fiber from when you have something that's been dyed by a dyer in a sequence or a certain way. So anyway, it's very hard to figure out how to spin pin drafted fiber. In fact, this right here is an example of pin drafted, and the reason it is because the colors run down the whole length of the fiber, as opposed to a block of color, another block of color, another block of color. So that's what I was doing, only it wasn't this fiber, it was another one. And I was trying to figure out, I have 8 ounces of it, how I was going to spin it. And so I researched it a little bit in some of my books, and they were talking about how to spin fiber dyed different ways. Well, unfortunately, they didn't really talk about how to spin fibers processed in different ways, except for top and roving, so they didn't really have any information on pin drafting. But they made the comment about if you want to keep your colors in succession of how the dyer dyes it, and they were talking about variegated dyeing, where you have blocks of colors, that most common is to use the chain ply. But as I found out a couple weeks ago, when you use chain ply, it's not, I mean, it takes a certain specific kind of project for that wraps per inch, and you have to spin it very thin, and that is not exactly what I wanted to do with that particular fiber. And so I was looking at other options, and they were talking about using the core spun concept of spinning yarn to keep your colors in progression. Now, they were talking about blocks of color instead of the pin drafting, but I thought, well, why don't I try it with the pin drafting and see what happens? I also did some other swatches, styles of spinning with that fiber, and I was trying to work out what I wanted to do, but that led to me trying the core spinning again and realizing that it would be something really good to show. Core spun yarn is a core, and there are 2 types of spinners that use 2 different kinds of core. They will use white or a colored crochet cotton of various thicknesses, or they will use a yarn, either commercial or hand spun, out of wool. And it just varies with mostly what you have on hand and what you want to use. The one thing you want to remember when you're picking whatever you're going to use to core spun core spin is that the actual process of making the core spun yarn is going to add more twist the same way that the yarn is already twisted. So they recommend that you either have a loosely spun, and I'm going to be always spinning the way we normally spin, which is turning the wheel clockwise, that's Z spinning, that you use a spun yarn that is lightly twisted, and there'll be more added as you do the core spinning. Or if you're using a commercial yarn, they even recommend that you run it the opposite direction through a spinning wheel and loosen it up some, so that when you do your core spinning, that twist takes pretty much back to where it was. I did my samples to show you before I started with mercerized cotton, and I did not loosen it up, and consequently what I have is a very over twisted core spun yarn. I'm going to show you that here. Put this here. Okay, so what I have is on, as you can see, mercerized cotton. Well, it's tied right here, but here's the cotton strand. It's hard to see on the white. And these fibers that are underneath it, which I'll show you here in a sec, or maybe I can lay it side by side here, was used to spin this core spun yarn right here. So I started out with this, and you can see the yellow that got picked up from that, and I ended with these. And that means this striped, pinstriped, is what this is going to look like. And that's what I liked. See the colors? They're not big blocks of colors, but they progress. They are not muddled together. Unlike this, which is from this fiber, it had some oranges in it that's not there. But, or this, which shows long length of the green, because there was a lot of green, and then goes in the purple. So anyway, this will vary with what your fiber is and what your color progression is on the core spinning. As a whole, it's a neat looking yarn, isn't it? It's going to be washed really hard and maybe stretched, weighted dry to keep some of that twist out. It already has relaxed quite a bit by my having it just on this Nitty Knotty over a couple days. So it is working out at relaxing some. I think that eventually it's going to be pretty nice to spin or to knit with. This one here, which is so fluffy and everything, is made from a bat. And it was a bat that was one of those bats that just have everything put in it. And that's why it's just incredibly fluffy. I also have a lot of just string because I was really struggling with spinning the bat, and I have two little mini bats that I'm going to try today, but that is one thing that I have to say, that I have much more success spinning either top or roving than I do have spinning a bat, or probably a lock. I didn't even try a lock. I know that you can do it, but if I'm going to use a lock for something, I'm not going to spin it away to that on this kind of spinning, and I'm not going to attach it to the yarn for tail spinning in this manner. I have a different way. So locks aren't really part of this. So I don't know, I really can't set that so you can see it. So we have, I want to tell you about the fiber and where it's sourced from. I'm going to put a link here, if it works, that you can go to their website. It is called Fat Fiber, and what they do is put together a box of samples of fiber from all different fiber providers. It could be just processed fiber from a sheep, so you have a sheep breed. It could be that they have the colors, they're dyers, they're, anybody who is actually selling fiber for spinning can send in these little sample sizes to Fat Fiber, and they try to base it on a theme. And so this particular one that I bought was book lovers. So it was all about books, and they would use, something that maybe inspired them from a classic book, or they would use a color like from a library or books in a row, or, just they were using it loosely to generate some creative inspiration for these fiber producers, and they produce the specific blend for the Fat Fiber box. They send out samples, but then they also have, with their samples, they have their information, and so you can contact them and get either more of it or something very similar. So everything I'm using today came from the more recent Fat Fiber box that I purchased, which had the book theme. And you can see right there, that says the Fat Fiber. So you can see it's PHAT. So let's do some core spinning. I should not talk as I lean away. I have the single of the Ramblay that I've been spinning on the Ashford. I did that spinning a couple Sundays ago, and I decided I don't like the yarn very well that it's spinning up for a couple reasons. It's not real smooth. It's rustic looking, and it has vegetable matter that's showing up in there that's so tiny that I can't even get it to look good. So it would have to be dyed. So anyway, I decided to use this for the core spinning. Hello, tree ontologist. I am based in the U.S. I'm in the Midwest part, and hello to you. Welcome. And we're talking about spinning. Spinning a specific kind of yarn today. Usually on my Wednesdays, I'm teaching something. On Sunday afternoons, we just spin and chat and talk about whatever we're working on. So I'm going to put this single down here below because I'm going to feed it up through. Get this down here. Attach it to my leader. And get it going. And then I'll get the fiber out and get started. Make sure this is going good, and hopefully you can hear me. I moved the mic, so it should be pretty close. Let me get started here. It's so funny because I had this all set up for all these samples that I spun that was on the Nitty Notty. I actually spun on this wheel, and now, of course, it's being cantankerous. There it goes. Okay, that's all I had to do was change the intake a little bit. Okay, so I have my core yarn there and ready. And then I have three different fibers that I put together based on colors. And I don't mean three different this way. I mean, I have a blue, bluish green. These three I thought looked good together. I have another three that I think look good together. And then I have two mini bats. So we're going to rustle, get these out. This is much bluer than it looks. Let me hold it up here. It's still kind of aqua. This is Blue Face, Leicester, and Silk. And that's just yummy. And this gives you also a very good idea of the size of the samples. Braiding's not the same as the big one. Okay, so you can see that's a nice sample. It's a nice sample. I may not use all of that today. This here is Bunny. I'm pretty sure it's mixed with merino or something. This feels like my merino angora blends I used to make. So that's a nice sample size. And last we have a pin drafted. And actually I am going to put it first, or in the middle, I should say. I'm going to put it in the middle. And this is pin drafted Corridel. Isn't that yummy? Ooh, I like that a lot. So you can see that these would be gorgeous together in a big project, but I only have these little samples, so it's not something that I'm going to try and dream up a yarn or a project for. Although those are such generous samples, I am really kind of sad that I'm not going to use them for that. Just have to buy another one. Okay, now one of the things I'm finding about this is it's not separating well, and one of the things you really need is a lot of integrity to it. Whether it's a bat or top or roving or whatever, it has to be kind of staying together. And this is the bunny and the angora, and I have a feeling that it'll work, but not as well. It won't be as smooth. It's going to be more like what I was getting with the bats. Now I have drafted it out as thin as I can use. One of the things I learned while I was working on this is do not put any fiber except what you're actually working with near you at all. I have got it right here, but it's completely away from the core yarn, because that core yarn gets so much twist in it, it'll just pick it right up. It's like sucks it in. Okay. So when you core spin, you hold, oh, let me change my camera. Goodness. There we go. There we go. All right. You hold your leader completely 90 degrees. You hold it completely straight in front of your orifice. You hold the fiber that's going to wrap, and that's what core spinning is wrapping this fiber around, not plying. It's wrapping the fiber around it. You hold your fiber at 90 degrees. As soon as you go to an angle, you will ply. It's automatic. So you have to keep it at the 90 degrees. You have to have a reasonable pull-in. And the ability to keep it at 90 degrees. And you can see, oh, see, it did. It already grabbed that fiber from down there. So there you go. Oh man, that doesn't show up very well, but it is wrapping. When we get to darker colors, you'll see it pretty quick here. One of the things I have to do is give myself room to work. The other thing is it has to be drafted exactly the way you want it to go on. And it does creep up your finger. You have to stop. You have to draft this out again. So it's thin, and you have to give yourself a little more room to work, and then get it going and slide it and wrap it. Now it's so easy. It really is. It's so easy. But it's hard to get a consistent yarn. You can see I'm getting thick and thin areas. You probably can't on this, but you'll be able to see when I get to a real nice dark yarn, which I probably will start on here quicker so everybody can see it. But my wheel, I'm just letting it pull it in. I am keeping my finger at a kind of an odd angle so that the 90 degrees stays 90 degrees. And I'm out of, I'm not out of the camera. Okay. My right hand, and I just gotta, it's not pulling it in quite enough. I just got a kink there. My right hand is pulling the core yarn tight. My left hand is pinched right there at where it's wrapping. Okay, I got a little bit more of this light blue drafted out, so, and it's got a big old chunk of short angora right there. But I'm going to do this. That's okay. To start again, you just lay the end of where you're at over it, what you were doing. And I can't really take my finger away, but this roving is just being pulled right up through that way as I'm spinning. And as it's pulled up, I'm just making it wrap around the core spun yarn. So I'm going to get a darker color here eventually. And I also need to go a little quicker because I'm putting too much twist in by going so slow. All right. Now I have to stop, so there is no way around it. I have to wrap this around there, stop that twist as best as I can, and get my next fiber. Now with pin drafted, what happens is you end up with this color and then this color, and then you see what I'm saying. So unfortunately, you don't end up with all the colors in this process. You end up with certain colors. So in this particular case, I'm going to take the blue that looks the closest to the others that I'm doing. Now this is top. Well, they call it pin drafted roving, but it's very straight because they feed it all through little tiny spinners and while they're putting it together. All right. Now what's going to happen because I stopped is I've got kind of a little messy end here, but we'll just cover that up. I am treadling very slow, and hopefully I can set that camera so you can see better. Now, this gives you a sense of how fast it can go. And I think you can see that green just a little bit better. Okay, I just hit the end of my roving. So the fiber with the bunny worked pretty good, but it does not have the integrity that this kind of roving has. I also, even that is too thick. So I'm going like that kind of thickness. And I am going to draft this out very thin so that I can just use it exactly. I can let it run right up through my hand and fingers and just use it exactly as it is. Now I got a little thick there at the end. I don't like that. Trying to avoid it. I want a nice smooth. Really makes the fiber shine for some reason. That, I think the way the light reflects on that angle or whatever. It's so magical. I just love it. I just love the way it works. I get so mesmerized. Now you do have to stop, and your fiber will start getting clumped up where you're pinching. So you do have to stop and get that straightened out again. Every once in a while I get a little bit of the white showing, which is why I said you can pick whatever color you want as your core, because occasionally it will show. Oh, I should have drafted that other one same time. So as much prep ahead as you can do, really, seriously, but keep it out of the way of where your core is coming up into your orifice, because it'll grab it. It really does. Put it totally somewhere where you can't get it caught in that twist of that core yarn. That twist runs from my orifice all the way down to the lazy Kate that bobbin is on. And as you can see right here, it picked up and caught this yarn and this fiber and twisted it, just sitting there. Alright, let's get a little out here. I can't, it feeds in so fast you cannot start. It's totally opposite of when you really spin regular. You cannot stop near the orifice. Or start near the orifice. You have to start further away. And give it room for you to run it in while you're wrapping it. And I just broke my core yarn. Oh my goodness, what do I do? Well, what I'm going to do is overlap it here. So I'm going to take my end. See, that's part of that is using hand spun. And I'm going to put the end right up the leader some. I mean, right up the what I had already spun. I'm going to start wrapping it. And I probably ought to give myself a little more room to work here. So I'm just going to wrap over the new one. Go right on down. It's actually easier than joining fiber. Pull some of my clumped out there. I love this color. Pretty. Kind of what I think of as Caribbean blue. Didn't get enough out. Okay, so that is a little selection of all these fibers, and because this is an hour-long stream, I'm not going to spin them all. I am going to use them either for something else or for that finish this. I don't know yet. I am mostly doing this just to teach it. And I'm going on to the next colors here. These had 4 different colors. I have 2 greens, a green and a purple and a solid purple. So let's put them in this order. And you can't see that. There we go. And it's going to glare, but this is a real deep maroon. This one is that light maroon, a little bit of deep maroon and white. This one is green, but it has that maroon running through it. And this one is just a good dark forest green. Okay, now I've been spinning blue, so I'm going to start with the green and go off from there. Let me put this up here and so you can see, and I need to start moving my, whoops, let me get that out of the way. There you go. There you can kind of see the colors. I can't pull my camera any closer, I'm sorry. That's about the best I can do. Right there. So let's start with the green. This is Cheviot. It's been dyed, of course. Not real soft. Little bit smaller sample. Where's my camera? And I'm going to take 2 little, two or 3. I think I'll take 3. Give a good stretch of this green. This almost doesn't, it looks like you don't need to draft it, but just to even it out, I will. I'm going to do all 3 once here. I'm surprised I got a vocal on my music. I'm not going to fix it though. Maybe I'll turn it down just a little bit. Hopefully it won't interfere. We'll turn it back up in a little bit. Okay, so now we're ready to do the green here. And how's my camera? Let me give you a little more view that way. And as you can look at the see the twist in there? That's what I'm holding, straightening out as with my right hand as I'm wrapping it with my left. So this one here really needs undone. I could just spin over that, but I'd have a lump. Unless I'm gonna end up breaking it. Come on. I don't think that's going to undo. I'm just going to leave it. Alright. Let's move this. And I just lay my next color over it. Keep my angle at the straight 90 degrees. Pull out a little bit of clump there. Pull it out. Give me more room to work. Now this doesn't have the shine that the other one did. But it's pretty. Pretty color. I'm at the end of the fiber. Pick up my next one. Lay it over there, and I actually send the end of it to the other side so that it gets picked up and wrapped, but I still got a little bump. Now see, okay, you can't see that. I ended up with what looks like plain, where the white shows through, because I didn't have my angle quite right. You'll have to understand that just because I know how to do that, it doesn't mean I'm practiced at doing it. Like I am practiced at spinning a single and a 2-ply yarn and all of that, which I have done for years and years and years. This is a technique that I don't use very often because it just isn't something I would have a use for the yarn. Novelty, art yarn, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully you can see this. I really wish I could get the camera closer. As long as I don't have to type, I can put my keyboard in and put my wheel over here. This will help. Let's see. Of course, part of the reason that it's hard to see is the fact that it's the opposite side of the camera. If it was over here, you'd see better, but it's not. So that's part of the reason it's hard to see. All right. We're going to the next color. Which is just, let's see here, non-superwash merino, standard merino. Ah, I just ended up with a chunk of it here. standard merino. I can already tell that this is going to be pretty soft and hard, not much integrity, again, like that Angora. Probably that Angora was with merino also. This one is commercially processed, so I believe that it's a little better, but I can tell that it's not. What kind of fiber you use makes a difference on how smooth you get it, and whether that's important or not is entirely up to you. Now, having used this hand spun Rambouillet, I really should, if I'm going to continue using it for this purpose, I am going to run it back through my Roberta, which is an electric spinning wheel, take some of this twist out, because it is too much twist. I just keep trying all these different camera angles. I really do like the pinstriping and how they look, because they have this can't see that at all right there, you know, it's a barber pulling kind of effect. I like that. Okay, let's go to the next color. Not very much of this one. And unfortunately, there's no listing of. There is no listing of what the fiber is. It feels like merino again. But that's kind of unusual. Usually they put what the fiber is when when they put their sample in there. I'm gonna make 3 here. Okay. Maybe this will go on real nice and smooth. At least we're changing color, and you can see the color changes. Got some shine to it. See, I got that really. I made a liar out of me. It's nice and smooth. It's very nice and smooth. Start a new one. You just lay the fiber right over top of the other one. You usually don't get to go too far though. You just get it joined and then have to get everything situated so you get your 90 degrees right. Oh, and I got a big old bump. By the way, that's how you make bumps intentionally in core spun yarn. You sort of open your fingers up a little bit and it lets more fiber through. But I'm not trying, excuse me, I'm not trying for bumpy yarn today. Oh man, I thought I broke it there. I was just stuck. Okay, so we're going to have one more color on this stretch. A nice deep purple. Maroon, I should say. It's purple, I guess. And they don't say what it is. And it is like pencil roving. But ooh, isn't that a neat color? That's raw. That's so regal. That's so royal looking. Okay, since this is so thin, I'm not going to strip it all the way down that way. I'm going to take this much. Well, yeah, I am. I'm going to try. Nope. Not going to come apart at all. Okay, that's interesting. It's somewhat compacted. In fact, it's quite a bit compacted. So we'll just open it up this way as much as I can. Yeah, that is really compacted. That's interesting. Just very, very gently but firmly pulling. And I probably will have thicker areas. Of course, a little bit goes a long way, I'll tell you. I'm going to separate this into two. Separate it, not into two, but in half here. Okay. The only problem I have not solved is this, where the fiber just wants to continue to twist so bad that you end up with thicker areas when you stop. So, I haven't really fixed that. Short of having everything all right beside you and ready to go. There, I got my angle wrong. So my white's showing. And this is going so thin. So what I'm going to do is back this up. And start wrapping again above it. cover up that area. And my core just broke, so I'm going to do what I did before. I'm sure that's because of the twist going in there. And tugging on it where it's twisted. And I laid it up above there. I have, come on, fiber that I'm wrapping around it and traveling down. I have fiber below it, which looks like it's ply, but I'm just covering that up. Oh my goodness, it just covers a multitude of oopses. Because this fiber was compacted and not consistently consistent throughout, what's happening it's not pulling through my hand as easily, and it's changing the angle underneath my fingers there, even in spite of me holding it. But it's not too bad. I had one or two places that it did that. Okay. So we're going to call that a yarn. I'm not going to break the core yarn, but I am going to treadle in some of the core yarn to give me a division area. Okay, so I'm just going to feed some of this in like this. And I'm doing that because the next yarn is going to look real different because it's the bats. Okay, so that's ready to go. I have two bats, and my camera isn't on here anymore. This one has sparkle in it. It's from Wild Hair Studio. I didn't tell you all the rest, sorry. But this is what I don't like about the bats, because that's going to really be, I mean, as far as core spinning, not as far as bats, but as far as core spinning, is that little chunk of stuff. This one is has a tie. Hang on a minute here. Let me get this open for you. Has locks in it. It's tied with a piece of yarn that, there we go. Okay. I'm not real sure how I'm going to open this up here. This is what it looks like, and I'm still struggling to figure out how it's tied. There's the tie. Okay. Now the tie is off. And we're going to open it. It's almost a... And that has all these locks in it, and it's really cool looking. But I don't really feel like it's that good for core spinning. I just want to show you an example of each one so that you understand the struggle with core spinning something like this. You can't even strip down and even, you just strip down chunks, really. Gonna get some of that silk there. Okay. So I'm working with chunks from this bat. And I'm stretching them a little bit. Mostly just so it's nice and not laying over itself, but nice and straight. This one here is being ornery. And I'm going to start with this one because it's the closest to what I've been spinning. Okay, so to get started. There's part of one. And we just start anywhere on here. I'm going to start down here. And just start wrapping. Oops, and it's catching my fiber there. I'm not pinching as hard as I was. I'm not going for the super smooth yarn in this case, so I'm not pinching on it as hard as I was. Just kind of feeding this on as it's coming out of the chunk. So yes, we're getting thick and thin and that sort of thing. We're going to go over an hour, folks. Sorry, because I have some show and tell after this. So thanks for watching on the video on demand. I know that nobody can really hit me and watch during the day. It's a problem, but it's something that I have to do as far as my personal life, is keep these to a minimum. And in order to teach this stuff, I'm just going to pick a day and hope that you all come and watch it later and learn when you're ready to learn it. Okay, so that was all of what I had taken off for this bat. All right, now we're going to take off some more. And I probably should have done that ahead of time. Maybe I can stick this between my legs and hold it a little tighter. That might help a little bit. So this one is a stripe off of a big bat, and I actually like this better. I think this one might end up looking pretty cool. I love the sparkle in it. I believe that that should be an absolute essential part of a core spun yarn, is to have sparkle in it. This is the perfect concept to use when there's sparkle. It'll show so well. Alright, I just drafted this out and I am going to break it in half. I've got two of these chunks here. I don't know if I can wrap this along with that right now. Use up. I need a little more pull in for this. And part of it is the big chunks going through the Yep. Don't see much sparkle though. There's one little piece of it. That's interesting. I thought it would show better. I do see it, but it kind of goes away. I guess it gets wrapped really bad. Such a fall coloring. I like that. Burnt orange and golds. Gold sparkle. All right. That is the end. Although I really like the way that looks. I really like the way that looks. So I am going to cut this leader for right now. And I am going to tie a knot under here. I mean, at the end here. Just to stop the twist. Sort of like you do with tail spinning. Keep the twist right there. I'm going to run it on into my bobbin. I'm going to take this bobbin off and you can see it better. Okay, so we've got sorry. We've got the blues and the greens. We've got the end here that has the one bat, and then I'm going to wind this on here where the orange is. It's the other bat. And you can see all those color combos right there. That is so cool. So that is core spun yarn, and I will put this on a nitty knotty, let it rest a little bit. I'll give it a good washing, and I will show it again at probably a Sunday spin in. But right now we're just going to let that sit on that bobbin for a little bit and go on to a couple other things here. Get that out of the way. This, when I teach, oh my goodness, I have so much cleanup to do afterwards. Now, let me get this right under the camera so we can see it. The first thing I want to show is a yarn that I made when I was showing how to chain ply. This is a chain plied yarn. This is made up of all sorts of the singles that were natural colored fiber, and it's mostly Shetland, but there's a few others in there too. But I wanted to show how fun this skein is. It has been washed, and it's kind of thick and thin in the sense that some of the chain plying, some of the singles were a lot thinner than the other. So there's variety in the wraps per inch throughout it. But is that not a fun looking yarn? And to knit those natural colors, you're going to get blocks, stripes, whatever of the color when you knit with it. It is 9 wraps per inch, so it's reasonably bulky. It is not a chain ply that you would use for socks, because those singles were not as thin as you need to make a chain ply sock yarn. So that was the first thing I wanted to show you. And on the same stream that I did that, I also did what was called the fake rope from the Icelandic tog, and this has been washed and is about as good as it gets. So it's not bad, really. It's very, very rough, and I would not use it in anything except, like I said, for whatever needs just a really good, sturdy yarn. And then in the another past stream, I was doing swatching of a superwash merino and deciding which way I wanted to make the sock yarn that I wanted to make out of it, and the options was a regular chain ply, 3-ply, a regular 2-ply, or a 3-ply where you just hold the 3 and make your ply. And I chose hold the 3 to make your ply. This is what the fiber looked like. I don't want to take it out of there, but you can see it's the yellows and greens and those interaction between the colors. And now I'll show you the skein. This is the sock yarn, and it doesn't look as, yeah, that's pretty good. I wanted you to see how the 3-ply, regular 3-ply looked with the color combination. When you knit this, it's going to look very, it's not going to be as, it's going to merge into itself and just kind of really look like a really nice fabric. And that fabric is going to look somewhat like that. So you can see that it looks much more distinctive in the colors in the skein, but when you knit with it, it's going to get a really nice blended look. And I am very happy with this yarn. I will be able to do socks with it. It is 14 wraps per inch. It's just right on the edge. It could have been a little bit thinner, but I'm pretty sure I can get socks out of it. However, I only have 125 yards, which will not make me a pair of socks, and I am going to buy, and I've already ordered it, superwash merino that's white, and I'm going to dye colors that go with these kind of skeins, because I cannot get a 3-ply out of 4 ounces, and that's how they sell a lot of the braids. So I need to have something that I can add to and do like my socks and toes and maybe a little bit on the cuff to add. But I will use this in a pair of socks sometime. I am very happy with this. This was my sock yarn project for Turtle Fleece second time around, and I met that challenge. I like it. And the last thing I want to show you is when I was doing some breed study, I found this CVM. These two little skeins had been stuck in a plastic ring binder thing and was in my breed study from years ago. And what I've been trying to do is take those out of the breed study, either wrap them up in balls and use them for something later on, or use, if it's a little bit, use it up and make a knitted swatch out of it. But when I found these two, they both looked like this. They both were very, you know, crinkled. They just were not a good looking yarn. And I looked at that and I thought, what was I thinking? You know, I don't know if it, because it was stored that way for so many years and the humidity maybe affected it, and it just, but anyway, my challenge or goal was to figure out what was wrong with this yarn and fix it. And so they both were that way, and this is the fixed one. This one is still a little bit, but you can see how much better, smoother it is. So what I did was run it. It doesn't, it's not real. Look at that. It's still, sorry, it is really kinking up again. This fiber has amazing spring. This looks so much better. This is the fixed one. So it does. It still looks better than that one. So this is the fixed one. I was getting myself backwards there. But what I'm saying is, what this really is it's under twisted. Even though we associate a lot of twists and kinks and this style of this look, we associate that with being over twisted. If it was over twisted, what you'd have would be areas of the yarn that it was pigtailing and going back and self-plying on itself, and that's not happening in this. So I took the skein and I ran it through my Roberta again, putting more twist in, and that's how I ended up with this look instead of this. And I will do the same thing with that. And then I'm going to put the yarn in my, just use it for something and not keep it, because I already have the CMV study done. I have swatches. This can just be used for anything. But I really wanted to show that on a live stream, and I'll probably do a clip so that you can, if you ever have yarn and you're wondering, what the heck, do I twist it more or do I untwist it? The key is, if you get those little pigtails where it's twisting back on itself in the skein, then you untwist it. But if you don't see those, then you add more twist. So that's it for today, and it was a long stream. I feel like there's an awful lot maybe you can't see. I wish you could do that zoom thing like you can in some of the places, but you can't. So anyway, try it. Take a single ply yarn or crochet cotton, take some fiber, draft it out really good, get it started pulling in on your spinning wheel, and hold that fiber at a total 90-degree angle and just wrap it right down your yarn. It's easier than you think. It really is. And then once you've done it and you get the feel for it, all of a sudden you'll start thinking of all this stuff that you want to try, and maybe knit with it and make a whole bunch of coarse spun yarn. So thanks for watching. Thanks for watching the video on demand, and until later, happy spinning. Bye. No, not goodbye. I'm going to raid. I want to raid a full-time streamer. This is her day job, and it's JK Knits For You, and I have always supported her because she more or less was my first inspiration to get into live streaming. So we're going to go raid her. I probably shouldn't, since I don't have any viewers, but I'm still doing it just for the heck of it, because I'm going to go watch it anyway. Now, see you later.